having breakthrough electrical activity in her body that she can no longer stand. So diet is really an important piece to it, and getting the highest quality diet is really, really important. I think some of the work that we're doing with herbs and primarily our big breakthrough this year has been the use of Jimmy Holman's pulse technology, where we both have a plasma light and we have contact. And we're not really talking about a rife machine anymore. You remember, everyone remembers having their grandmother's dial-up black telephone that they just dialed it up. I think rife machines have gone way beyond that if they look at the new technology, and we're in a place that the machinery is more like a 4G technology. The thing that we're doing with that is we've applied physiological regulating principles, homeopathic principles, energetic principles to the use of the rife machine. We don't just say, I got to kill Bartonella. And that is really the misnomer about what rife truly is. The rife machines, the electrical work, it's been done by Fritz Popp and another institute in Russia for about 40 years. The higher frequencies, the more research frequencies can bring a lot of relief to people. And there are groups out there that buy one light and actually play cards together and go together and treat each other, basically. But we have what our breakthrough this year, I believe, was, especially with the advanced inflammation patients. When I call that, I mean it's like cancer. We're not allowed to even say that. But we've just seen some really good support for those kind of folks. And I'm just saying that that medicine, antibiotics, is not the only path, and that if you think rife is the only way, there are more advanced rifes now. It's not even rife, it's a scalar wave technology. It's left the rife thought behind at this point. So that's the big breakthrough that we had this year, and we have a little machine that we put out there, with people in our treatment process. But another big work, and what that really does in the rife side, I want to cover this, I forgot. It really treats the root causes. If you start to look, there are studies in Japan and other places that are showing this frequency medicine can actually restore DNA to a proper level. Why did I get into it? Because this brainstem inflammation, these kids with autism, they needed something different. I can't give an antibiotic or enough supplements to make their brain calm down. I just can't do it. There's not enough. And so when I started using cold laser and I started using advanced pulse technology, people started getting better. Because I think it gets to the root of the cause and keeps other things back. And again, I talked to one researcher who said, it might drive it deeper. Well, if you're using a radio frequency, not a scalar wave frequency, that might be true. I don't know. But the scalar wave frequencies are quite different. We also use homotoxicology, and if people don't know what that is, we're literally identifying the layers of sickness and asking them to leave with basically a homeopathic approach. A lot of people don't believe that, but I don't care anymore because it works. It's kind of like I don't need to stand in front of a board and justify it all the time. And then this basic nutrition, really looking at your environment as far as this basic nutritional piece, and making sure that it's not filled with all kinds of dirty foods and that sort of thing. So we got to get the clean foods on. We do homotoxicology, which we call detoxification, purification. And then we do targeted nutrition. A lot of people have a methylation defect. They have an mTOR pathway defect. They have oxidative stress issues or nitric oxide synthase issues. So we try to identify those and get the targeted nutrition on, and then we hit them with the light. And life is better for most of them.
Right. What about, can you talk to me about neuropathy?
Well, I can and I can't. Well, tell me what your specific question is.
Well, the specific question is, sometimes it's the meridians are blocked, or
right.
or there's I always call it a crimp. So how can your machine and your technology there, how can that help neuropathy? Because a lot of people suffer from that.
Right. Well, that's very interesting. In a meridian process, zyto is simply a decision point software. So we have what are called biophotonic frequencies for just about everything. So you can, it depends how you practice. A lot of neuropathy is from, obviously, things anywhere from diabetes to other things. Or I think, obviously, that Babesia and other things have demyelinated certain parts of your body. And so I can identify, the first thing I can do is identify whether or not you're breaking down in a certain meridian, just like you said, or even a genetic pathway like the methyl tetrahydrofolate pathway, MTHFR. Sometimes that is simple. There's a lot of scientific study on methyl tetrahydrofolate. The medicine that the doctor could use, or the prescription, is called Deplin, and it's high dose 5-8 MTHFR. It's called Deplin, but we use it as just plain folinic acid. And it addresses certain pathways that break down in the methylation cycle that may be contributing to the neuropathy, may be contributing to the lack of something called BH4 tetrahydrobiopterin. But if you want just a simple approach, you can see where it's breaking down. A Chinese medicine person would see it, breaking down in a meridian. And you identify that meridian, apply pressure to that meridian. You can even do acupuncture in that area to increase the electrical flow. So my machine would identify it either from a chemical standpoint or from a flow standpoint.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
And so once the patient has all this information, how receptive are the doctors they go back to?
Well, I used to say everybody has their famous doctor, and then they have me to coach them. And so sometimes they actually, the doctors that I work with, like somebody like a Stephen Harris or someone like, they actually didn't even know what it was, and every once in a while they just say, go talk to that zyto guy and find out what's going on. And in general, people are so, doctors that are trying to help people are so tired, and if I can give them a trying to figure it out, because in their worldview they can't figure it out, it's too deep, and so there's not a clinical test or a laboratory that's going to have a test strong enough to figure everything out, unless you spend $20,000. And the bottom line is in general they at least give me, because I am somewhat scientific, at least give me some credit, and then do whatever they want to do. But then when they overuse the antibiotics without protection of the gall-associated lymphoid tissue or their gut, and the person is sick, then they call me back in. Right. And so getting this unified approach to me is probably very important, because I'm not against antibiotics, but I am against antibiotics without protecting the intestine.
Okay, so the doctors you work with. Now, what about somebody come out? First of all, let's give people your website and where you're located and the whole thing and how they can get a hold of you.
LWT International, Living Well Today International, or LWTinternational.com, LWTinternational.com.
Yes,
I'm in Richmond, Virginia, but since I can do zytos over the Internet,
right,
I have 3,000 patients in 20 different countries.
Wow. Well,
the best one is they ride a bicycle to the airport in Bangladesh to have a zyto done for a kid that's really sick.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And missionaries go to an internet cafe in Brazil, and they hook up the zyto, and I sit there and talk to them on Skype.
Right. And so is any of this ever going to be peer-reviewed? Or
never. And, as I jokingly say, being the former conservative that I thought I was, this is really hard for me. It's like it's in the charter. I'm not really supposed to be an intuitive or empathic or use energy medicine for any reason. But when I started getting results, I had to give all that up.
Right.
You won't find me on my own website because of what the doctor says. I took 2 years ago when I did my first Lyme presentation, I took my name off my own website.
Yeah, I couldn't find it there.
Yeah, people only find me through conferences like yours, and yours is the first conference I've done in 2 years, and 2 years before that, and I swore I'd never do another one, but it was you, so I came. But they find me through these chat rooms and things like that.
Right. Dr. Murakami, isn't it important, I know you keep talking about double-blind studies, peer-reviewed, and the whole thing. You've heard all of this from Michael Payne, and isn't it not real important to get success rates with patients rather than worry about all this peer review and double blinds and everything that may take years and years and years? What's your comment on that?
Well, it wouldn't take much to do a double-blind study. All you need about, say, 20 people on both sides and try what this machine does. I'm not familiar with it at all, and I can't speak for it or against it, but it shouldn't be too much difficulty in getting 20 people on one side and 20 people on another, one using this machine and something using just nothing else, to see if there's a difference. It's basically a scientific double-blind study, but if you're getting 10,000 patients in your practice, then fine. There should be lots of people who would be quite willing to give evidence to the scientific world, the medical world, that this really works. I think that wouldn't be very difficult. You wouldn't need, it appears, to prove it. You just have to get a bunch of people together and testify they did participate, and you need a statistician. It wouldn't take much to prove whether this machine does anything worthwhile, and if it does, so much the better. But we don't know unless we do something like that.
I think one of the things that is hard to quantify in a double-blind study with energy medicine is what you can't really stratify out the variables very easily sometimes, and so we could go after, we could have to have a general kind of review, but I don't know that you could go right down to does this kill Borrelia or Bartonella, unless someone like Steve Hines or somebody like that's been willing to give us the tests related to it, because that would make it an enormously expensive study. But observationally, qualitatively, I know it does help. I've watched it in. Actually, what was really wonderful, Doctor, is I had Duke University following a lot of what I did in one case, and they said they had never had the results that they'd ever had, but that's just a qualitative one-person study,
Yeah.
And
no, but if you have 10,000 patients, there must be 20 of them.
I have 2,000, not 10,000.
Let's have a study with 20 here and 20 there, and let's see what the difference is. It wouldn't take much to do.
That would be a good idea. It's just that, Sue, as you know, I work 14 hours a day, and I just haven't had the time to do it. But I may shift that way someday.
Well, I think it's very important that if you're saying that you're getting miraculous results, then fine. I think you owe it to the world to do that.
Yeah. I agree.
There you go.
I agree. It's just I haven't had the time, actually, to do it. It's just people keep coming in waves.
Yeah. I know. Well, and that's where they're going to go. In my case, I found that, long-term antibiotics just didn't work for me. I'm, apparently one of those that it just doesn't work for. And so people are going to look for other alternative treatments. I mean, they have to. Rather than commit suicide, if they want to live and they want to enjoy life instead of being bedridden or, whatever, then they're going to look for alternatives. And I think that anybody that can sit there and put your hand on a machine and you can tell them, you've got parasites, you've got Borrelia, you've got, Bartonella, you've got whatever, I think that's a good start, because it's in my case, it would have been better off I did that and instead of wasting all these years, and I do mean lots of years, on antibiotics. It just didn't work.
So, see, what I would do in that case, then, I may go have you do a blood test. I may go do TGF-beta and see, but only after I kind of got an idea of where to spend our precious money and our treasure, And I'm just using it as a screening device a lot of times, but we never get quite past that. But in this case, like in the Parkinson's case, nobody can treat her with antibiotics. You can't even put it in. I mean, so it took someone like a rehabilitation person to sit here and say, we've got to make you poop on time every day. We've got to get you remineralized before we can do any of this. And by the way, we've got to clear that liver gallbladder congestion, or otherwise all of this is going to stick in what is called the cytochrome 450 2D6 upregulated phase 1 of your liver, and if we don't get that cleared up, all the junk that we kill is not going to be able to leave the body. Some people have different detoxification capacities. Some people have a little bathroom window where they get everything out, and some people have a sliding glass door. And I found that out when I broke my neck. The only thing I could take was 5 milligrams of Valium for pain. And every time they gave me I started to say the F words. I can't remember. It's a patch that they gave me, and I vomited for 13 hours until I took the patch off. What did you say, sir?
It's fentanyl patch you're thinking of.
Fentanyl patch, the fentanyl patch. I vomited for 13 hours. I went through 13 different medicines, and I wasn't particularly toxic. I just can't process the ones that go through that pathway. And then when we learned that Valium went through a different pathway, and I had a certain pathway that agreed with that, the Valium worked better. And you can give an 80-year-old woman 80 milligrams of Valium, and you could only give me 5. So that's called the cytochrome 452D6 pathway, or CY. They know it with some of the other medicines, CYP219. So we know those pathways. Not everybody, again, is created equal. And the only thing I do with this energy biofeedback machine is just to try to make sure I make better decisions on the medical side, or help doctors sometimes make a better decision on the medical side.
Right. Well,
it wouldn't take too much time It wouldn't take much to expose this machine that you have to a culture of spirochetes in a medium, liquid medium, and see what it does to it. It wouldn't take much to do that. It wouldn't be very expensive to see what your light do to these spirochetes inside of a medium.
You guys would have loved this one. Just over the last 3 months, I was treating a new patient, a double vaccinated kid from Russia, and I said, I don't know what it is, but I have a lot of congestion on the pineal, and I'm not even sure why, because I don't treat the pineal, but I have this new product from a homeopath in Canada that supports the pineal function. And I put that in, and 3 weeks later she had her MRI, and the most notable piece of was that she had a cyst on her pineal. So if you can get down to that level and show that, and observational things, they're not scientific at all, but that has happened more than a few times. So that's all I've been going on, trying to get out here and, again, help people. When you do this we used to do it 12 times a day, and now we're down to 5 or 6 times a day. You just can't do it all the time. We're trying to find better ways to help people deliver their home treatments and create, manuals that will help them treat themselves, because we can't get to everybody at this point.
Right. And on your website it says, about people that are waiting forever in a doctor's office when they can do this. So it's like, that's convenient.
We call it living room medicine, not waiting room medicine. Right before I got on the call, I was working with somebody in D.C., and basically I confirmed borreliosis, neuroborreliosis long term. It's...
Okay, somebody needs to answer a phone.
I'm trying to shut it off.
Yeah. Just pick it up and then put it down. I mean, if you so...
Wasn't me. Wasn't me.
Yeah, wasn't me either. Usually people hear my birds. They don't hear any other phones ringing. We try to turn those all off.
Sounds like a Canadian phone.
It is. It was. I turned it off.
Well, this is live, so, who knows what can happen live on air. So
that's why I took a Valium before I came on. So
5 milligrams, right?
5 milligrams. It keeps me, as they say in the autism business, regulated.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Regulated. I did not.
I know. Well, one thing you do have above anything else is a sense of humor. This is why I had you open at 7 o'clock in the morning. Do you want to tell them what you said to this group of doctors?
Yes, I started out saying I am a functional medicine practitioner, and as a functional medicine practitioner, I tend to know a lot about, poop. And I can make some honest evaluations of every one of you sitting here in front of me here at 7 a.m. in the morning. The first third of you, I am pretty sure, saying, I'm really not sure what that guy's talking about because I just had about the best poop I ever had. And another third of you are saying, I am really not listening to this guy because at 8:20 I've got to poop, so I hope he gets finished. And another third of you are sitting there going, why the hell would Sue Vogan ever have a meeting at 7 a.m. in the morning?
Yes, I know. I've gotten a lot of ribbing over. I loved that opening. I really did. We should have taped at least that part.
Yeah.
7 a.m. in the morning, yeah, we won't do that again. But there's so much information. We're actually going to stretch the next one out for a half a day, so we don't have to do that 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But there's so much information. I mean, it's so hard to select speakers, and I'm not probably the best judge of what actually should be there at the conferences. It just
you did a good job this time, for sure.
Thank you. Well, it kind of flows, and I listened to doctors. There was one there that actually was talking about, said, I may be damaging my patient's liver, but what else am I supposed to do? So guess who's going to come at the next conference? Somebody to address the liver problems that are caused by, antibiotics or disease or whatever. So I did listen. I listen when we have guests on. I talked to doctors
But see, Sue,
all the
that's
time.
really the important part of dealing with these thousands of kids over this past 10 years. I'm convinced that they were the canary in the coal mine, and
right.
The first thing that we do is support gut, support the liver, and do adrenal support as well. Because if you want your little train that could to keep on going, you better support it.
Exactly.
Because it won't keep going, so you got to get the gut clean, and then you can do the antibiotics 3 days later, 10 days later, 30 days later, maybe. I don't know, but you've got to get those parts on, otherwise it exacerbates the negative reactions.
Absolutely. Doctors, I feel so badly. Gosh. Okay, here we got a question. Sue, I was not able to listen to everything, so I'm not sure if this came up yet. What are the expenses for using Living Well International?
Well, I don't really post that everywhere, but I have to tell you, we have made a very special price for, we call it Voganomics here, for the Sue Vogan crowd. I usually charge $295 as an initial consult. But for this crowd right now, we are at $195 for initial consult, and if you hurry up, I don't know how much time we have left on any of these things, but we are offering, because of the Sue Vogan referral, a $150, basically 50% off, and we haven't announced that to everybody, but for doctors referring, and then every follow-up's $125. So you should probably be interested in talking to me at least 3 times if you're going to do something to get you right. And then most people, about 20% of my patients stay forever. They don't.
Right.
So maybe even 30%, but they stay forever.
Right.
So it's pretty good. If you just wanted to do one consult, you have to purchase a hand cradle and then send it back, or rent a hand cradle and send it back, and that is an additional $125, but a lot of the communities buy one and pass it around. And so
right.
5 of them get together and split the cost of $125, like $20 a piece or whatever that is. And then they all have consults with me at $150, which I usually do them at, almost $300. And I spend probably about an hour and a half with you and try to set your course right, make sure that you go back and say, Doc, I have so many parasites that I really need to do this unusual way of looking at parasites with Biltricide and Alinea, and we tried to do it with Rizal and Artemisia and black clove, clove. We didn't get it done, so could you help us with the parasitic infection? Because that's really what's blocking us. So you probably need me for 3 times to really make it work. So $150, $125, $125, and that'd be over 6 months.
Wow, that's cheaper than any, and I hate to say this, but it's cheaper than any Lyme doctor, actually.
Well,
So
I don't do the
fees,
same thing that Lyme doctors do. I'm the coach. I'm more like a coach.
Right.
Well, I'm a coach too. I give free advice on testing and stages of Lyme and the antibiotics I've used in the past, and it's all recommendations, and I don't charge anything, and that's the way I work. I feel most of these people don't have the money to spend.
That's really good, but I can't do that. I have to pay for all these things here, and I used to do it, actually, and, I've spent most of my time and treasure helping people with autism.
I'm not saying you can't afford to do it. You got to do what's appropriate for you.
Business model is pretty simple. I mean, and unfortunately, it's a different environment when you're in a contract of coaching with a person rather than just giving advice, because you're in this contract of healing with people. It's a little bit different, and you put a little bit different kind of. I'm kind of been on call for this one Parkinson's patient. Like I talk to her twice a day during the real exacerbation times. So that kind of stuff I don't really charge for. But the consults, when you get on with me, you're going to pay for it.
Right, exactly. Now, how can anybody listening take advantage of this?
Well, they can just call my office or write in on Living Well Today or LWT International and check it out. And if they're in the area, it'd be really nice if they, within a couple hours drive, if they still have the zeal to go and come. I-95's, congested, but it's an easy trip here. Just I-95 to 64, and then you're here. So, so they can come, make an appointment. We send them a hand cradle, and we start testing people, just like we did right there.
And what's your office number?
Oh, good call. I don't know. It's 804-562-8554.
Okay. All right. Again, that's 804-562-8554. And just remember to mention, the show, and you get 50% off.
50% off. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
I've talked to people that were at the conference and they got done with you because there was no time for me. You had them lined up. I mean, people were lining up for this. And everybody that came away that I talked to were bowled over. They were just absolutely bowled over with the outcome of what you did for them. So this is a good deal. Absolutely.
It just helps us differentiate, think differently, and get a plan when you're stuck.
Right.
I can't tell you how many moms call every other Friday afternoon and say they're just stuck.
Right.
And so I'll put in a little acetylcholine and maybe a lot of magnesium to make the kid poop. And I'm not just talking about kids. I just don't want to talk to you about a bunch of adults. I'm profoundly experienced with autistic kids. I'm pretty darn good at Lyme. I've had over 500 women sit in this chair right here next to me, and anywhere from Lyme disease to, I just want to be pregnant. So, I have a lot of experience. It's just that I'm a real authority in the kids. But the kids are the canary in the coal mine. They taught us more than if we ignore what kids with autism taught us in the Lyme industry or the Lyme, whatever you call it, Lyme caretaking business. If you ignore what the children, then we threw away. It's the most unfortunate gift we've ever had. If we go back and analyze what happened to the kids with autism, then we're going to consider this one of the darkest times ever for medicine, and the Lyme people fit right in there. So.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. And Dr. Murakami, people in Canada or even in the United States, if they want to talk to you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, if they look up my name on the website, Dr. Ernie Murakami, there's a place called Murakami Center for Lyme, and they just punch that, and they'll get into my forum. And I have a Facebook as well. So they can correspond with me directly through the forum or the Facebook. Or if you want to give them my number, it's 604-869-9922. And anybody can phone there anytime and leave a message. If I don't get back to them, I'll phone them eventually.
Oh, you're pretty good about getting back to people. You're Johnny on the spot there.
Well, I want to have, these people are desperate when they phone, and they want some advice and treatments and the testing that are available, and the doctors who are available in their area.
Right. Well, and that's why you're here on the show. I actually received some calls from Canada that patients were looking for help. And who better to call, since I don't usually deal with Canada, as their Lyme disease, because we've got enough going on here in the States. But who better to call than Dr. Murakami? And you help them. I don't even hear from them anymore. So you've taken that and really helped them and guided them, because you know more about what's going on in Canada. And,
well, I've had direct experience with 3,000 doctors, and probably another 7,000 indirectly with doctors and specialists, both medical and naturopathic doctors who are willing to work with me.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and from my understanding, I've talked to quite a few people in the know up in Canada. Most everybody's having to go what I call underground to be treated. It's not.
A lot of doctors will treat their own patients, but they won't treat anybody outside their practice. Mm-hmm. But the naturopathic physicians in British Columbia, their college has openly supported me, and I've lectured to them and to their graduating class, not only here but in Toronto. And their society, the naturopathic medical doctors, are very sympathetic with my belief, my treatment, and they have repeatedly asked me to attend their conferences and their lectures to their medical students.
Right, exactly. So
I would say, from my standpoint, Sue, is that when you come here, you're not going to get a conventional, conventional treatment. It is a model that I created. It's different than conventional treatment, in the sense that it is a model of deep purification, detoxification. It could be anybody could come here. It doesn't matter whether you're Lyme or not Lyme. The targeted piece, but it is a model of restoration of the subtle energy system of the body, so you can defend yourself.
Right, exactly.
And so it's a different model from what the doctor is talking about, because I can't write prescriptions. Even though a lot of doctors work with me, and I'm not against prescriptions, it's a model of preparing to use those prescriptions and then adding onto it the research that we're doing with photodynamic therapies and biophotonic therapies.
Well, you offer a lot. I mean, people walked away during the conference and were amazed. I mean, they were ready to go to their physician all this information, and hopefully they had success.
Hopefully they did, and some of them will and some of them won't, and that's when we need the follow-up. That's where you need the follow-up.
Exactly.
So I don't contradict the physicians. I just try to get in. I try to get in between the spaces and support them for all the pathways that I understand that they're not taught.
Right, exactly. And that brings us back to medical school. Physicians are not taught like naturopaths. They're not. They don't have as much to do with diet, and I never heard of the word meridian until 3 years ago. Do doctors even learn about meridians in medical school?
Oh, heavens,
Dr.
no.
No, we don't know. I know a lot of people have used it, but I can't tell you what significant changes they're getting or any benefit. I'm afraid I can't comment.
Right.
I have a Chinese medicine mentor in Los Angeles, and he, if you can imagine the outline of an Earth, and he would say, Mike, Western medicine, American medicine works way up here, and he's pointing to the crust of the Earth, and he says, many, many things can go wrong up here. You kind of work here in the middle, and a few things can go wrong. He says, I work with yin, I work with yang. Only one thing can go wrong.
Yeah.
He says, why need a scientific study? 1 billion people do what I do every day.
Right.
So a lot of people understand the meridians. They understand yin and yang. And often what a scientific study is doing is rediscovering what we already know. And I do have one other funny story about Jeff Bland arguing with in Gig Harbor, Washington, about the scientific basis of medicine. And this cardiologist, it was a cardiologist, looks at him and says, "Well, sir, you do not practice scientific medicine." And Jeff Bland looked at him and he said, "Sir, have you ever used more than one medicine at a time?" And he says, "Well, of course I have." And Jeff Bland looked at him and said, "Well, then you too, sir, do not practice scientific medicine."
Oh no. Wow.
So it's, we parse words. I'm not in it for the same reasons everybody else is in it. I was too ornery to be a minister, so I did this.
No. Well, you actually weren't you a stockbroker?
I don't even want to say that, but yes, I probably did some of the first derivative trades in 1993. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, sure. I was on Wall Street, yeah.
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
Much. I have an accounting degree, worked with big 8 accounting firms, broke my neck, and started again.
But you finally made an honest person of yourself.
Well, that's why I had to work with 2,000 kids with autism. I had bad karma, didn't I?
Yes, you did. You had bad karma.
I had to pay off a lot.
Yeah, now you have funny karma.
Yeah. So anyway, no, it was a blast. Second half of life should be about meaning, and I can't think of anything more meaningful than alleviating human suffering.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think Dr. Murakami will agree. Correct?
I agree. Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. And hopefully we have given you guys out there enough information to get started. Again, the number for Michael Payne's Living Well Today International is 804-562-8554. Give them a call. There's no harm in asking questions. If you have some specific questions that we didn't answer here tonight, or you have a specific case you want to talk to them about, give them a call, 804-562-8554. That's located in Virginia. Even if you're across the continent there, he can do this by phone. So give him a call and find out, what's up. Any parting comments? We got about 4 minutes.
Go ahead, Doc.
Well, the biggest wish is I wish the medical world will sit down at one table and get rid of the big divide that just is so unnecessarily and is there, and it's got to go, and I don't see what's wrong with sitting down and talking. Even though they're feeling negative about each other, why not get together? That's my wish, that we would do that.
Well, we're trying to pull that off with some of the conferences. Hopefully we can actually pry some of them out of their little towers, and we can get them to come to the conference. We're actually pretty nice. We're pretty nice folks and pretty open-minded. And, we should be learning from each other. I learned a lot from Michael Payne. I learned a lot from all the exhibitors. We had 31 of them there, and I learned so much from all of them, just talking to them, watching them interact with people, and listening to comments as people walked away from the booth. It was packed, I can tell you that, but people were excited. They just couldn't comment enough on how one or more exhibitors help them, make their life a little easier. Michael, you want to wrap us up here?
Sure. I've spent a long time. My wife says some men play golf. I play zyto and alternative medicine. And I've spent a lot of time trying to get to the bottom of this because supplements didn't necessarily work and homeopathy didn't work. But all of a sudden when you put it all together, the situation is much bigger than any one discipline, and it's nasty, it's horrible, but there is hope, and we sit here and help people every day, and I'm just so excited and so honored that people actually still show up, and that we're busy, and that we can help folks who just seem to be hopeless, and we get it back, get them going, and all I can say is don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. And get in here and see us, or get somewhere where somebody can help you, and don't give up.
Right. Yes. The number again is 804-562-8554, or look up Dr. Ernie Murakami. It's Murakami. I've got it here in the chat room. reach out to somebody. You're going to find some help. There is hope. Living with Lyme and other chronic illnesses. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, my pleasure. Everyone out there, thank you for joining us tonight, and have a great week. Good night.
Good night. Good night.